Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Lioness for Truth, where one video at a time I bring forth hidden historical documents and ancient artifacts to restore the stolen yet rich history of the not-so-African African-American. So today I wanted to go over this book called Nature Knows No Color Line, Research into the Negro Ancestry in the White Race. It was released in 1952, and this book has got some great gems in it that really break apart and dismantle the lies that we have been told about our history as a so-called African American. There's some great gems in this book, and I just wanted to go over some of them and share some of my favorite ones in this video. Because everything that we have been told about our history and our origin as a so-called African American is entirely false. We're all unfortunately under a great white hypnosis, a great white spell, and we don't even realize that we have been the victims of the greatest identity theft in history. So the Caucasian wrote a false version of history to keep us focused on, while he went and stole our history and claimed it as his own. But we're going to go over this book today and start to take back that history that is ours and not theirs, as they claim that it is. We are not African. We do not descend from Africans. We did not come from Africa. And the Caucasian does not descend from the Romans, the Greeks, the Vikings, the Celts, the Franks, and all of these people that they claim were white with no proof to prove that they were. So why don't they have proof to prove that all of these people were white? Because when you actually do digging and pull books and maps and first-hand accounts and artifacts, what do those things show? That all of those people that white people say they descend from were actually black. That's why they don't pull any evidence or proof or artifacts to prove that they actually descend from the Vikings and the Greeks and the Romans and the Celts and all these people and the Irish. That's why they just talk. Because the proof is in our favor and shows that all of those people were black. You can talk all you want. Yeah, fantasy is in your favor. But when we start dealing with facts and first-hand accounts and old books and old records and artifacts and archaeology, it shows that all of those people were Negroid or black. But let's start here on page 76 and take a look at the Moorish Negro coat of arms depicting black Negro nobility and royalty in Europe. Not Africa, Europe. So here we can see at the top of the screen, Negroes in coats of arms of noble families. At the bottom of the page, it reads, British families. British, Britain. We're not talking about Africa. We're not talking about Africans. British families, the Moors of Yorkshire, including Sir Thomas More, Chancellor of Henry VIII. So these are Moorish Negro coat of arms depicting black royals and nobles from Britain. Were you shown these in school? Did you know that as a so-called or falsely called African American, that this is your history, that these are your ancestors? We're so focused on Africa and trying our hardest to be Egyptian and caught up in this Pan-Africanism. Meanwhile, these are our ancestors ruling Britain. Were you shown any of these in school? These are black men. Check out the earrings. Check out the crowns on their head. These aren't slaves. These are dark-skinned, melanated, woolly-haired Negroes. These are the real ancestors of the people now falsely called African American. Like it said, these are British families, British nobles. So not only were we in Britain, we were ruling Britain. Look at all these coats of arms. Why would they not want you to know about this? Because they need you to keep thinking and acting as though you're nothing but an African slave. Look at the crown. It's not a slave. Here we have several more coats of arms. Now at the bottom of the page on the right, page 85, it reads, French, Italian, Spanish, and Polish families. Not African. Not Ghana. Not Nigeria. Not all these countries that black people are so in love with because we have been lied to about our origin. Why would you let your enemy tell you where you come from? Would he not tell you what's going to benefit himself? He had a whip in his hand yesterday, but today you're letting him teach your children? Did you know that the so-called African American really descends from French, Italian, Spanish, and Polish Negro nobles? French, Italian, Spanish, Polish. Where's Africa in this? These people aren't African. These are the countries that we came from. These are the countries that we originate from. The indigenous people of every continent are Negroid, are dark-skinned, are melanated, are woolly-haired, Europe included. Look at all these coats of arms. These are all black people. Look at the crowns. These aren't slaves. Look at the earrings. Spanish, Italian, French, Polish. These are the ancestors of the people now falsely called African American, as well as Caribbean blacks, because the only difference between us is a boat stop. All of these people are ancestors. If you're Jamaican, if you're Trinidadian, these are your ancestors as well. None of us are African. These aren't slaves. Why would you put your slave on your family coat of arms? Once again, were you shown these in school? The answer is no. Now, what you need to ask yourself is, why weren't you? Is school about education or is it about indoctrination? If the education system isn't the crux of white supremacy, why won't you let anybody else have their history? Here we're on page 83, some more Negro coat of arms. From French, Dutch, and Belgian families. Once again, no African countries mentioned. French, Dutch, and Belgian. We're dealing with tens of coat of arms here. This wasn't a few blacks here and there, like they like to say. Oh, he was a slave from Uganda that rose up the ranks and became a noble. No. Look at all the tens of coat of arms we've gone over. Here on this one, Morel, you see the two lions, the Lion of Judah. Genesis 49, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. We see the Moorish headband. More crowns. Here we have the Lion of Judah again. Morceau, a French surname. France. These are our surnames, not a slave master's surnames. As you can see, all of these surnames are depicted on Moorish black Negro coat of arms. So we have to stop falsely giving credit to the white man for our surnames. These are our surnames and always have been. Here's an English Moorish coat of arms for Morrison, the surname Morrison, which means son of the Moor. I'm sure there are thousands of so-called African Americans with the surname Morrison that think that that name came from some white slave master. No, it didn't. Your ancestors came directly from England with that surname because it means son of the Moor, son of the black man, son of the black. That's your surname. Look at this coat of arms. Look at the earrings. These aren't slaves, nor are they Africans. Here we have some Central European coats of arms depicting more black Negroes as nobility. Look at the crowns. We got a queen depicted on this one. Look at the crown on her head. Look at the crown on this black man's head and the earring in his ear. Gold earrings. Why weren't you shown this in school? Why don't they want you to know this? Because they're claiming to have been these people. They're claiming to have been the nobility of Europe. So they can't show you this because then their lie falls apart. Then they can no longer claim to have been ruling this continent. Europe has been a white continent for about 150 years. Before that, they were still in the Caucasus Mountains. They were still the wild man or the wood woes. I have a video on that. The true origin of Caucasians, their real history. It's not what they tell us it is. They have switched the histories, saying that our history is theirs and their history is ours. And in reality, we were on the throne and they were in the jungle, in the woods of the Caucasus Mountains, in the caves and the mountains. Here we have some more European, Central European coats of arms from Holland, Portugal, and Germany. Look at the lions, the two lions of the tribe of Judah. The scepter shall not depart from Judah. It's a common false narrative that in 70 AD, the southern kingdom fled into Africa. We did not flee into Africa. We fled into Europe, and Judah began to rule over it because that is the blessing the Most High put on us, that the scepter shall never depart from Judah, that everywhere we go, we would be the founders and the royals and the kings and the queens and the nobility of that place. We're dealing with the tribe of Judah. We're dealing with these black Negroid people from the tribe of Judah, the same tribe as Christ, the same tribe as David, ruling over Central Europe, which is why there is so much lion imagery throughout the continent of Europe. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to historical sources and archaeological artifacts that prove that the so-called African American is not African at all. Our origin is not Africa. Our ancestors did not come from Africa. Africa is not in our veins. There's a reason that the scripture says that the truth shall make you free. Free from a false identity that has kept us in a slave mentality for far too long. This is the true history of the so-called African American. Something African about us. We descend from the swarthy, melanated, indigenous peoples that inhabited and ruled Europe for over 1,500 years.